The Primitive Mind Cure by Warren Felt Evans. Chapter 2. The Application of the Idealistic Philosophy to the Cure of Mental and Bodily Maladies. The philosophy of idealism as presented in the preceding lesson is to be applied to the cure of disease, as it was by Jesus the Christ. All disease, so far as it has a material or bodily expression, must have had a pre-existence in us as a fixed mode of thought, that is, as an idea. To expunge from the mind and obliterate from our soul life the idea of it is to remove the cause of it, and hence to cure the malady. How best to accomplish this is the problem to be solved by our transcendental medical science and practical metaphysics. To its solution we will now devote our best energies. It is our aim to reproduce the system of cure practiced by Jesus and adapt it to modern modes of thought and expression. Now Jesus was the Prince of Idealists, as Kashub Chunder Sen has said, and his religion is supreme idealism. Oriental Christ by P.C. Mazumdar, page 34. Without a knowledge of the philosophy of idealism, it is impossible to comprehend the profound truths of Christianity or any of the Oriental religions. With Jesus, as with Gautama the Buddha, ideal things, existing in a sphere of being interior to the world of sense, were the only real and enduring things. All else was evanescent and ever-changing. We have endeavored to find in the realm of mind certain fixed principles as fundamental, immutably true, and trustworthy as the principles of geometry, by which the mariner guides his course upon the pathless deep. In the New Testament doctrine of faith, as it was viewed by Jesus and Paul, and even Plato, we affirm that we have such a principle in its application to the cure of the diseases of the soul and the body. When properly understood, we see why, as Jesus declared, it is ever unto us according to our faith. Matthew 9:29. This is a principle as certain in the laws of mind and as reliable as that a straight line is the shortest distance between two given points, or the demonstrated theorem that in every right-angled triangle the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Faith may be defined to be the power of perceiving spiritual realities that lie above and beyond the range of the senses, and a confidence in those higher truths. This is essentially the definition of it given by the unknown Kabbalistic author of the Epistle to the Hebrews, Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the source of all spiritual power. The end and purpose of all education is, and will be, of our present studies, the achievement of spiritual development and the attainment of a truly spiritual mode and habit of thought. In other words, our aim should be expressed in the comprehensive prayer, Lord, increase our faith, Luke 17:5. This implies that we already have faith in a degree, which only needs to be augmented and turned in the right direction. On this subject, Mr. A.P. Sinnett very justly remarks, one may illustrate this point by reference to a very commonplace physical exercise. Every man living, having the ordinary use of his limbs, is qualified to swim. But put those who cannot swim, as the common phrase goes, into deep water, and they will struggle and be drowned. The mere way to move the limbs is no mystery. But unless the swimmer in moving them has a full belief that such movement will produce the required result is not produced. In this case, we are dealing with mechanical forces merely, but the same principle runs up into dealings with subtler forces. Of the power which resides in faith, he gives as instances the marvels wrought by the genuine Oriental adepts. Their training is designed to develop the principle of faith. Esoteric Buddhism, page 12. Read also on the same subject the 11th chapter of the Epistle to the Hebrews. But everyone will ask, how may we get this faith? In this case, the questioner is like the man who is anxiously hunting around the house to find his spectacles, but all the time has them on and is looking through them. We already have faith, and are perpetually acting under its influence and guidance, but have not learned its higher applications and uses. Faith is only that intuitive intellectual perception that lies above the range of the sensuous plane of the mind's action, and which we call into exercise every time we correct the illusions of our senses, and judge and act contrary to their deceptive appearances. Whenever we judge, not according to appearance, but judge righteously or according to a divine rectitude of thought, we exercise faith. When I perceive that the reflected image from a mirror is not a solid object behind the mirror, or that the earth turns on its axis and that the sun does not rise and set, it is that higher form of knowledge which is called faith. According to the idealistic philosophy, thought and existence are absolutely identical and inseparable. This is a principle as universally true as that two straight lines which are parallel will never meet, however far they may be extended, or the proposition that the whole of a thing is equal to the sum of all its parts. Bishop Berkeley, after remarking that time is nothing abstracted from the succession of ideas in our minds, and that the duration of any finite existence must be estimated by the number of ideas or actions succeeding each other in that individual spirit or mind, says, "Hence, it is a plain consequence that the soul always thinks, and in truth, whoever shall go about to divide in his thoughts or abstract the existence of a spirit from its cogitation will, I believe, find it no easy task." Principles of Human Knowledge, section 98. Pure thought is the summit of our being. It is the Kabbalistic crown and is spirit, and by divine appointment governs and controls all below it. It is the point where our individual existence flows out from the unknown. The attainment of the power to think spiritually and spontaneously, in contradistinction from the possession of a set of borrowed opinions, is the crown of life. Since to think and to exist are one and the same, a man in whatsoever condition he is, whether in health or disease, whether happy or the opposite, is only the expression or external translation of his thoughts and ideas. He is the perpetual creation of his fixed mode of thought. The world and all the things it contains, including the body of man, have no thought in themselves, do not exist in and for themselves, but exist only in us, and as Schopenhauer has truly said, are to us only what we think and believe them to be. As thought and existence are identical, a change of thought must necessarily modify our existence. To think a change in our bodily condition, and not merely to think about it, will determine all the living forces toward that result, as certainly as a stream issuing from a fountain will flow in another direction when we change the direction of its channel. If thought is the first act of our individual spiritual existence and a perpetual concomitant of it, and is the primal force and most subtle energy in the universe, the question will arise, is thought free and subject to no law above itself? Can we think when and what we please? In disease, can I think that I am well? In pain, can I think that I have no pain? I answer unhesitatingly, I can. All things are possible to thought. I can think that 5 + 4 is 12, but may not be able to believe it until the thought is joined with feeling in some degree. A man may think that his dwelling is on fire when it is not, and he is affected by it, or he may think that his house is not on fire when it is, and in the latter case he feels no alarm. In both cases his thought modifies his existence. A man may think he is dying when he is not, or when he is passing through what the world calls death, he may both think and feel that it is only a higher form of life, and that there is no death. In sickness it is possible to think and even believe that the disease does not belong to the class of truly existing things, but is only a phenomenon, or appearance, a false seeming, an illusion. This thought, maintained, will vindicate its right to be called the crown by transforming all below it into its expression. Thought may be subject to certain laws or fixed rules of action, as may be predicated of the divine nature itself, but is absolutely free, for the laws of its activity arise from its own existence. It knows no higher law than itself. Pure thought is the first emanation from God, as is seen in the Kabbalistic scheme of the 10 Sephirot. It is not a mere attribute or faculty of spirit, it is spirit itself. We cannot abstract thought from spirit any more than a smile can be separated from a human face and left as an entity in empty space. And the spirit, as the first emanation from God, as the Kabbalah affirms, is the Son of God. And as the Father has life in himself, so he has given to the Son, or the Spirit, to have life in himself. And he gave him authority also to execute judgment, because he is also the Son of Man. John 5:26, 27. The essential characteristic of spirit, and which inheres in its very essence, as Hegel has said, is freedom and spontaneity. It originates action or motion, as Plato teaches. The essential property of matter is passivity or fatality. Thought is not like the vane on the church tower, turning in every direction from the action of a force existing outside of itself. But the Spirit is a wind or breath of God that bloweth where it listeth. John 3:8. It chooses its own direction in which to act. There is nothing above it, but the unknown God out of whom it perpetually springs. As the sun is never separated from any of its rays, but acts as one with each and all of them, so the Father of spirits always approves and sanctions the action of pure spiritual thought. For pure thought is the protogonos, the first begotten, the Son, and perpetual offspring of God, and from him it is never sundered. If thought and existence are identical, then it follows that to think rightly is to be well and happy. All matter, including the human body, exists only in mind, which is the only substance. It exists from thought and in thought. Hence, the body is to me and for me what I think it to be. This is an absolute and irrepealable law of our being, as much so as that all right-angled triangles are equal to each other, or that every circle, great or small, contains 360 degrees. How soon a change of thought and feeling, as in passing from melancholy to cheerfulness, translates itself into a bodily expression. So when doubt and despair give place to hope, and the full assurance of faith, the change expresses itself immediately in the face, which is the index of our interior states of mind and body. Behold in this the creative omnipotence of thought and feeling. Thought and feeling are the Elohim, the di potentes, the creative potencies in our microcosm or lesser world, as they are in the macrocosm or greater world of ideas. And they are continually saying in us, "Let us make the body after our image and likeness." In the above short sentence, as in a casket, lies the golden key which unlocks the mysteries of health and disease. That which we most need is to develop into consciousness our inner and higher life, and to give to it what rightfully belongs to it, an absolute sovereignty over all below it. It should be our aim to elevate the principle of thought above the plane of the senses and free it from their distorting influences. This elevation above sensual things was known to the ancients, and their wise men said that when the mind is withdrawn from sensual things, it comes into an interior light, and at the same time into a tranquil state, and into a sort of heavenly blessedness. Man is capable of being yet more interiorly elevated, and the more interiorly he is elevated, into so much the clearer light does he come, and at length into the light of heaven, which is nothing else but wisdom and intelligence from the Lord. Arcana Celestia, 63:13. As thought becomes more internal, or elevated above the body and the external senses, it becomes more potential. This is the true meaning of healing ourselves or others. It is the emancipation of the soul from material thraldom. And when the soul is saved from its illusions, the body can well be left to take care of itself. Says Paul, "The thought of the Spirit is life and peace, but the thought of the fleshly mind, or the habit of thinking on a level with the body, is death." Romans 8:6-7. This passage contains, in a small compass, the true philosophy of salvation in the full sense of the word. It will be our work to develop this living germ and fruitful seed of truth into a tree whose leaves shall be for the healing of the nations. We encounter at the outset in our instruction a great evil, and one that has served to hold humanity down and prevent its rising from the plane of sense to the life of faith. I refer to the fact that the Church, Catholic and Protestant, has claimed a monopoly of the principle of faith. They have connected it with certain dogmas which are, to many intelligent minds, unreasonable, absurd, and incredible. They have enclosed the divine and saving principle of faith in what looks to many as an unseemly wrapper, like the precious goods of the merchant in coarse paper, and they refuse to deliver the merchandise unless you take it in the unsightly wrapper. The invalid, or sinner as the case may be, desires to be healed or saved, and works himself into a willingness to take the standard theological medicine as the less of two evils, But he cannot avoid saying, or at least thinking, with Whittier, I trace your lines of argument, your logic linked and strong. I weigh as one who dreads dissent and fears a doubt as wrong. But still my human hands are weak to hold your iron creeds. Against the words ye bid me speak, my heart within me pleads. But at the present time, many people are beginning to feel that they can buy directly of the Christ, gold tried in the fire, and enclose the celestial and enduring good in their own theological envelope. Faith is a philosophical and scientific principle much older than even Plato, and belongs by just right as an exclusive property to no one sect, but to all mankind, as much so as the light of the sun. In these lessons we shall try and put you in possession of this pearl of great price, and leave you to find your own casket. I can but feel that those persons in the various churches who have unselfishly devoted themselves to the practice of the faith cure, and who include in their number many of the choicest spirits on earth, would find their success still greater if they could divorce more fully the saving principle of faith from unchristian and mentally unwholesome theological dogmas. In other words, let us give allopathic prescriptions of pure religion, but infinitesimal doses of the popular theology. It is to be hoped this suggestion will be taken in the spirit in which it is given, for, as one has beautifully said, a bending staff I would not break, a feeble faith I would not shake, nor even rashly pluck away the error which some truth may stay, whose loss might leave the soul without, a shield against the shafts of doubt.